guys, so in our capacity as motoring journalists here in Malaysia, sometimes we get asked questions such as which car should I buy or which car is better, and sometimes it can be quite overwhelming. So every once in a while we will decide to shoot a video addressing these questions, and today is one of those videos, and we have two actually very seemingly different competitors, yet are remarkably the same at the same time. On my right is the Toyota Corolla Cross GRS, and on my left is the Honda HRV. Now this is not the top of the line variants, these are the models that sit right below the top of the line variants, which are the hybrid variants. This on my left is the V-Spec variant, on the right, as I said, is the GR variant. Now the Corolla Cross actually is a C segment SUV, whereas the HRV is a B segment SUV. But there's only about 7,000 ringgit separating these two cars. So in terms of payments, they're roughly about the same, but then at the same time, they are not. So which one should you buy? Because chances are, when you do consider buying a new SUV, you might be considering either one of these two. So let's find out. I don't want to talk too much about design, because design is always subjective. What I may like, you may not like, and you know, it's just one of those things. But having said that, there are no ugly proportions to either one of these SUVs. Both are actually quite safe designs. The Corolla Cross doesn't have a bad angle to it. It is a very safe design, but it's just not one of those cars that make you want to go wow. The HRV as well, it's obviously the younger, fresher design among these two SUVs. But just like the Corolla Cross, it too is a very safe design. There's no ugly angle to it, but there's no proportion to it that actually just screams and makes people want to cram their necks to take a look at it. It is actually a very regular design. Both of these are very regular designs. So I think in terms of if design is going to be one of your key price points, key decision making points, well, I think you're going to be a winner with either one of these two SUVs. Powering the Corolla Cross is a 1.8 litre engine that has been powering a number of Toyotas for a while. So it's definitely dependable. You wouldn't expect anything lesser of a Toyota. It produces 139 PS and 172 Newton meters of torque, and power is sent to the front wheels through a 7-speed CVT gearbox. Now, it's definitely dependable, although not entirely powerful, but reliability is the name of the game over here, as is efficiency. Now, the onboard computer tells us that from our journey from Damansara to here in Sedang, we needed just 8 litres of fuel to take us 100 kilometers, and we are still left with a range of 412 kilometers. And judging by the fact that the Corolla Cross has a 47 litre fuel tank, that's actually quite decent. Now, the Toyota Corolla Cross comes loaded with features, some that are actually good enough to make your everyday life even more comfortable, easier in fact, such as the fact that it comes with a foot-operated tailgate. Now this is really handy, especially if you have young kids that you're carrying in one hand and a handful of groceries in the other. Now you also get a really large boot, a full nearly 100 litres bigger than the Honda HRV. So this might influence your purchase making decision. For me, 100 litres is sort of negligible. I'm more particular about how the car makes me feel, the driving feel of that car, but I'll get to that later. Now, besides all of that, you also get a functional tonneau cover, which actually really helps when you want to park the car in a shopping complex and you have stuff in your boot. The Honda HRV has a weird flap looking thing. Now, the one thing that really irritates the hell out of me though is the placement of the rear view digital video recorder. Now this is part of the dash cam, because the rear view camera is actually placed over here. So this is part of your rear dash cam. Now this is just, the placement of this is in my books really bad, because in your rear view camera, in your rear view mirror, it's just placed right at your sight line of sight, and every time you take a look at the rear view camera, this gets in your view. Now it's just like having something really annoying right at the bridge of your nose that you just can't take your eyes off. For me, that is no good. Now before I step into the Corolla Cross, I would just like to point out that these are some mighty fine seats. They're big, they're comfortable, and they're very supportive. So I really like the seats. Do I like them more than the HRV? I would say so. Now, inside, well, it's like this, you know. It's a very, again, just like the outside, it's a very safe design. It doesn't particularly make you go wow. Now, as for the entertainment system, this comes with a 9-inch touchscreen system. It comes with Apple Auto and Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Excuse me. But then I really couldn't get it functioning. As you can see, my cable is plugged in here and my phone is oh, there it is. My phone is here. Let me just start up this car. And every time I connect my phone, it would just tell me, please connect your phone. Now the cable is definitely working because my phone is charging. So that means there's power running through. But then Apple CarPlay simply would not load. So I'm still yet to figure out how to make this work. Now, other than that though, I also think that the placement of these cables is very Kedai accessory kind of thing. This looks like you bought this thing in an accessory shop in Sunway. Now, you do get a charge pad over here, which is good, but this is just unsightly and very messy. The other thing is the cameras. Let me just show you. Look at that. The cameras are just blur. They're highly pixelated. You can't really see stuff. So in that sense, it sort of is very un-Toyota-like, and that just riles me up the wrong way. So cameras, you know, if Kia can have a high definition camera, if you can buy a high definition camera in an accessory shop, then I don't see why a company like Toyota, one of the world's biggest car maker, can't sort this out. Now, is that a deal breaker? For me, sort of, because you know, this is something you're going to be living with on a day-to-day basis. Like, I can live with a smaller boot space because I'm not going to be loading it up to its maximum capacity every day. But this is something that I'm going to be living with all the time. So this I do not quite like. Now, I also like to point out that you get a foot-operated handbrake over here. Now this reminds me of my grandfather's W124 Mercedes-Benz. Understandable why Toyota chose to go down this route, because this obviously saves space over here from having a regular conventional handbrake. But the solution to that could have been an electronic parking brake, such as the Honda HRV. So in that sense, the Corolla, as safe, as nice as it is, comfortable as it is, I think it's just lacking in terms of technology. If you're considering an SUV, that might mean that space is important to you. And when it comes to space, the Corolla Cross has more of it as compared to the Honda. The back seats are obviously very comfortable. I don't have as much legroom as I would like, but it's not bad. I could spend maybe a trip from KL to Penang I imagine I'll be quite comfortable in the back here. The seats though are actually quite wide, so this hinders my front view a little bit. I would like a little bit more visibility, but it's not cramped. I don't feel claustrophobic. You do get your own air conditioning vents. You get 2 Type-C USB ports. And most importantly, for a family SUV, you get ISOFIX mounts over here. And I really like the recline of the rear seats. It's a very comfortable sitting position. Some SUVs have a very upright sitting position. Besides that, you also get proper thigh support. So for me, this is important because it just means that the Corolla Cross is actually, the rear seats of the Corolla Cross are actually quite comfortable. In terms of driving dynamics, it is hard to fault the Corolla Cross. It's just a very simplistic, fuss-free recipe. It's quiet. The suspension is on the softer side, even softer than the one on the HRV. So that naturally gives it a more comfortable driving dynamic, so to speak. But in that sense, if you enter corners too hard, or you shift or you switch directions too quickly, you tend to get a bit of body roll, which is a typical character of a softer suspension setting. That goes without saying actually. But besides that is why I think that the Corolla Cross would appeal to the older generation. Those that are just looking for a very simplistic car, one that they can get in and drive. It keeps them comfortable, keeps them safe, and isolates the cabin from the outside world. I do think that the interior it could be better in terms of sound insulation. Right now, even though I'm doing about 60 kilometers per hour, I still hear too much of the road noise at the tire level. I hear too much tire roar, the outside noise when there was traffic around, but it's not as bad as the Honda HRV. The HRV, with its stiffest setting, and I think it rolls on lower profile tires, I think it is noisier. The cabin is noisier than the Corolla Cross. But besides all of that, in terms of comfort, I think the Corolla Cross does it better than the HRV. Now, unlike the Toyota Corolla Cross, which has a naturally aspirated engine, the Honda HRV is powered by a 1.5 litre turbocharged engine making 133 PS and 240 Newton meters of torque. Now the HRV is down on power, but it has more torque than the Corolla Cross. It also has a higher top speed of 200 kilometers per hour, whereas the Corolla Cross maxes out at 185 kilometers per hour. In terms of efficiency though, the turbocharged engine needs exactly the same liters per 100 kilometers as the Corolla Cross, which is 8 liters per 100 kilometers, but it has a bigger fuel tank. However, it's only 3 liters bigger than the Corolla Cross and measures in at 50 liters. Now, the onboard computers are telling us that we still have a range of about 230 kilometers left. However, we have been driving the HRV for longer, and we roughly basically have an entire range of roughly about 500 kilometers. Now, the smaller displacement, though it is with force induction, actually means that the HRV is higher on torque, and because it's lighter than the Corolla Cross, it has better efficiency as well. However, the HRV is slightly down on features, such as the fact that it does not come with an automatic tailgate. You still have to go old school on it and do the heavy lifting by yourself. And as I said earlier, the HRV also has boot space, which is very nearly 100 liters smaller than the Corolla Cross, which in my books is not exactly a deal breaker, because if you need more space, you can collapse the seats. What I do not like though is that you do not get a functional tonneau cover. Remember, the Corolla Cross has a functional Toyota tonneau cover, tonneau cover, which you can pull into place. However, you get this flappy thing over here, which when you close it, I can't really tell because it's tinted, but when you close it, it's actually supposed to deter people from actually looking into your boot space. It obviously works. Now, just like the Corolla Cross, the HRV too has some really nice seats. It's again like the Corolla Cross, it's fully leather clad, comfortable. And I think when it comes to seats, even though I prefer the ones on the Corolla Cross because they're slightly wider and just a tad bit softer, the ones in the HRV are actually quite good as well, even though these are just slightly firmer. So over the long run, firmer seats tend to perhaps not sink in as much, if that makes sense. But besides that, the interior of the HRV is obviously nicer. It's much more modern. It triggers the imagination, right? And if you have not heard, Honda has actually benchmarked itself against BMW. So hence why the designs, these three circular dials over here, they're very BMW-like in their presentation. Even in terms of quality, I have zero complaints. There's nothing that rattles or buzzes or just makes some funny noise when you're going over uneven surfaces. So on that point, I would also like to point out this thing over here. Now, this is an air conditioning adjuster. If you turn it down, it closes the vent. If you turn it this way, you get this thing working. And if over long distances, you simply do not want the cold air being blown directly into your face. So this is a diffuser, and now air comes out of this thing over here, and this basically channels air around you rather than to your face, and this keeps the interior cool. So sometimes do you find yourself turning off the air conditioning because it's just you cannot find the sweet spot of the blowers, right? It's either too hot or too cold. Now that's what that thing is supposed to do. It's supposed to surround yourself with cool air rather than blasting it into your face. And that's what I like about Honda. Innovation. But besides all of that, the interior generally feels much nicer. Even I've been driving this for a while, and even Apple CarPlay is a simple plug and play. All you got to do is plug it in and it launches. It's that easy. And yes, I've been using the same cable. So besides all of that, I do have one thing that I would like to point out. And this kind of annoys me a bit. So we have dials for everything. There's so many dials here. In fact, there are about 5 or 6 dials in this interior. But when it comes to adjusting the volume of the audio, you have to do this. Either you press this button incessantly or you do this. So I find that a bit of a pity. A dial would make it a lot easier. Besides all of that, interior space is obviously on the lower side. It's smaller than the Corolla Cross, but it's still quite comfortable. But just like the Toyota Corolla Cross, even the Honda has some sketchy cameras. I feel it's still blur, but not as bad as the Toyota. I mean, I just don't like blur cameras. It doesn't make sense. We are in 2023, right? We can get incredibly sharp images of galaxies, right? If you've not heard of the 3 pillars of creation, I suggest that you go Google that and check out how sharp that image is, and that is thousands and perhaps millions of light years away. And if you can get so sharp images of that, then why can't our companies give us clearer images when it comes to rear view cameras? Yeah. So in that sense, yes, I think it's a bit of a pity. But besides all of that, I did point out earlier when I was in the Corolla Cross that the HRV does not have a blind spot monitoring system. However, it does have something called Honda Lane Watch Assist. Now, if I were to give my signal to the left, because there's a camera mounted on the side view, the left view mirror, now it shows me the image on the left, but because the door is open, so I can't show you that. But so yeah, it shows me all the cars that are on the side. Now this is handy, especially when during the daytime. But because of the quality of the camera, at night, all you see are headlights, which if a biker is not using his headlight, as they are sometimes known to do, you're not going to see the fella. So other than that though, you do not get a blind spot monitoring system on the right hand side, which is a bit of a pity, and neither do you get rear cross traffic alert. Both cars, however, do have their own method of presenting a part analog and part digital meter panel. So both cars have a 7-inch TFT, small 7-inch TFT meter panel over there, which is right next to the analog meter panel. So in that sense, I think it feeds you some really good information. You can either change it to give you things like your tachometer, your range and fuel, speed and time, seat belts to see how many of your kids are wearing seat belt, maintenance information, settings, you can even customize the display or general information. So all of this, I think in my books, is handy. It also, even the Toyota has its own way of doing it. It's also handy as well. So both cars are even in that sense. In terms of infotainment system, the HRV has a 1-inch smaller infotainment system as compared to the Corolla Cross. This measures in at 8 inches, whereas the Corolla Cross has a 9-inch infotainment system. Now, when it comes to the interior of any car, packaging is always important. What do I mean by packaging? It's the way that the interior has been put together to maximize space and comfort. Now remember how I told you that the HRV is actually smaller than the Corolla Cross in terms of dimensions? However, the HRV has better legroom in the back seat as compared to the Corolla Cross. The Corolla Cross, if you recall, the seats were right next to my knee. Now this seat is adjusted to my height. It's how I'm comfortable driving this car. And then it was the same measurement for the Corolla Cross as well. However, here I have about 3 inches, perhaps 4 of legroom from the front seat. So in that sense, I'm actually quite surprised how the HRV might be smaller, but it has more legroom for passengers at the back. Now, the seats are also slightly slimmer, which in my books, yeah, I like bigger seats for more support. However, for back seat passengers, you get better visibility. So those that are claustrophobic, it'll make you, because there's much more light coming towards the back here, it makes you feel more comfortable. It doesn't make you feel so nauseated. It also comes with ISOFIX mounts over here, and you get your own rear air conditioning vents as well as 2 Type A USB ports. But the HRV, even though it lacks boot space as compared to the Corolla Cross, it has a trick up its sleeve, because when it comes to storage space, and Honda has an ingenious trick up its sleeve, and that's called the Ultra seats. This makes it so much easier to actually store stuff. You can either fold both these seats up. Let me just show you. Look at this. Look at this. Look at the amount of space that you get in here. So you could meditate in here, man. So in that sense, when it comes to storage, you really, and interior packaging, the packaging of the interior of the car, you simply cannot beat Honda. Now, if I recall correctly, if you were to remove the headrests, you can actually create a bed. You push these seats at the front, you put the backrest down, remove the front seats, you create a bed. I might just show you. Anyway, I tried. So I've seen it somewhere, somebody doing it. So yes, the Ultra seats of the HRV are just amazing, and this just basically gives us a conclusion that even though it has lesser boot space, it ultimately has more storage space. As compared to the Toyota Corolla Cross, the driving dynamics of the HRV feel a little bit more aggressive and a nudge on the sportier side. The suspension is noticeably firmer, and that could roughly translate to a less comfortable ride than the Corolla Cross. Yes, the Toyota is better suited for comfort. The Honda is those cars that you drive if you like a car that handles well. I'm not saying that the Toyota doesn't handle well, I'm saying that the Honda handles better. But a firmer ride always has to sacrifice on comfort. That's just the paradox of the automotive world. But besides all of that, the interior of the Honda and all of its features make up for the firmer suspension and the louder noise. The vibration and the harshness and the noisiness in here is noticeably higher than that in the Corolla Cross. In that sense, I think the Honda does sacrifice a little bit on NVH levels, but it does provide you with a nicer handling car. And if you're the type that likes to, always feel in control of your car, then I think you'll like the way the Honda feels. I definitely do like the way the Honda feels, and even though I wish it was slightly quieter, perhaps at the level of the Corolla Cross, would have been nice, but I think that the Corolla Cross is just a little bit too soft. You take a corner too fast, your passengers are going to be thrown from side to side. Whereas in the Honda, well, you always feel like, even though you're at the edge of between the comfort and uncomfortable level, it's still not so bad. And I think the Honda makes up for it with a nice interior, and makes up for it with features such as the auto hold function, which the Corolla simply cannot have because it does not have an electronic parking brake, which the HRV does. So in that sense, I think the Honda, well, sportier, yes, but it all depends on what you want to do. You want something comfortable, well, and a tad bit boring in terms of handling, then yes, the Corolla is the model that you want. If you want to feel in control and always, it just engages you, and you can actually really chuck this car in and out of corners when you want to, when the roads allow you to, then the Honda is the car that you want. So, the ending, which should you spend your money on? The Toyota Corolla Cross costs 142,000 ringgit, whereas the Honda HRV costs 135,900 ringgit. So actually they're pretty equal in terms of pricing. Even on the safety front, the Toyota comes with the Toyota Safety Sense, which gives you things like pre-collision system, lane departure alert, dynamic radar cruise control, lane tracing assist. And with the Honda, you get the Honda Sensing Suite, which includes forward collision warning, collision mitigation braking system, adaptive cruise control, one of my favorites, lane departure warning, auto headlights, which the Toyota has as well, lane keep assist, road departure mitigation, low speed follow, which is incredibly helpful in in traffic, so you don't always have to keep your foot rotating between brake and the accelerator pedal. The car does that for you. Then you also get lead car departure notification system, which is one of my favorites in the Honda as well, because every time you're stuck at the traffic light or you're even stuck in traffic, you tend to browse your phone, which you shouldn't, but we are all guilty of it. And then when the lead car, the car ahead of you, actually starts moving, you are left just still browsing on your phone. So with the lead car departure notification system, it actually alerts you when the car ahead has moved on. Important and handy at the same time. Now, on the safety front as well, the Toyota comes with 7 airbags, the Honda has 6, and then it basically has a lot of systems designed to keep you safe, comfortable. It has it all. Both cars are pretty equal in that sense. But if I was spending my own money, I would spend it on the Honda. Simply because for me, it handles better. I feel that it's just a nicer car to drive. The interior is a lot more nicer, more engaging. The entertainment system is better. I feel on a day-to-day basis, the Honda HRV is a better car for my liking. Perhaps the older folks among you might like the comfort of the Corolla Cross better, but the day-to-day runabout and the versatility that the Honda has to offer in terms of the ultra seats, that is undeniable. Yes, the Toyota also has stuff like the dash cams and such, which also includes a rear view camera, a rear dash cam system. I mean, all of that is handy, but that's nothing that you cannot get at your local accessory shop. So in my books, the Honda is the car that does it for me. Thank you for watching. Do consider subscribing.